Sarah's a digital literacy learner. She started on the course to improve her digital literacy skills. Her communications preferences: she's very keen on Facebook, she uses it with all her mates, she's fairly aware of the privacy issues around it, and she feels like she's fairly on top of them. She likes the immediacy of it, the fact that it's straight away, you can see when your mates are online and you can have a chat with them. She doesn't really get involved with email. She did use it when she was in college and the last time she had a job, but she finds it a bit cumbersome. She doesn't check it very often. When she does use it, she tends to write very short messages. Maybe they don't always have subject lines and things, so she's not that fussed on email. She also has dyslexia. She doesn't find long form writing very easy. She's a bit self-conscious about her spelling and grammar. She has been picked up in it online. Internet, Facebook, comment threads can be quite ruthless, and she has been embarrassed a couple of times by people picking her up on her spelling online. So what she wants to do, her targets are to get back into work, or maybe she's also considering going on to a college course. So she's aware that she wants to get back into learning. Either way, she's going to need some extra skills. So her tutor is quite familiar with this kind of thing. He himself is very keen on email. He's a bit old school. He uses it a lot. He dishes out assignments via it. So his preferences are quite different from hers. He does use Facebook, but he doesn't check it that often. He mainly looks at the old family photo that other people in the family have put up, and he's very careful about communicating with students by it. He's not entirely convinced yet whether it's the right way to communicate with his learners or not. He's a specialist in dyslexia. He knows a lot of good strategies and a lot of good tools and technologies that are going to help Sarah improve her online writing and transfer that to other skills in the workplace later on. He's very aware of the need to communicate effectively with learners, and both for reasons of keeping them happy, motivated, secure, to build up trust so that he can give feedback effectively and have them act on the feedback and trust him to reassure them when they're getting on well or not so well, and have that good rapport with them in order to make effective classrooms. He's also aware of the need to be in the loop about some of their hobbies and interests, to contextualise the learning, to make sure that what they're learning is relevant to them. So he has a meet up with Sarah, they have a little talk. She talks about her communications preferences, he talks about his. They are quite different, so they find a happy medium, which is going to work for both of them. She tells him a bit about the barriers with her learning in terms of dyslexia, and she lets him know her targets long term. He then takes those, he builds up an ILP, they agree the targets across them, sets some goals for her to reach. Different methods of communication they talk about and consider. Facebook is popular all around. Sarah's very comfortable with using that. But there are an awful lot of other varieties, whether it be email, which is maybe one of the tutor's preferences, face-to-face, or a combination. Some of these have advantages and disadvantages that need to be considered in a learning environment. Some of them are synchronous, so they happen at the same time. Instant messaging. Facebook is almost like that. You can see who's online. You've got your green dots letting you know who's online, have they checked your message, and you can even see when they're typing, you get a little symbol. Whereas email is something you tend to send and then you get a response later on. So Facebook is very informal. This is one of the reasons Sarah likes it. It's very informal. People tend to post various bits and pieces on there. Her tutor's more concerned that it can exclude people. If people feel like they're not in the in-group with it, they can feel a bit excluded and a bit out of it. It's very easy to misread something online. It's also very public if you're not very careful, so there are privacy settings, but a lot of what goes on there is public unless you're very careful. It's easy to get negative feedback on there. People don't always think through how things will be taken online, so you can get negative feedback and miscommunications happening. There tends to be a lot of formal text speak, casual speak, abbreviations that maybe could be taken the wrong way, leading to people being either upset or embarrassed. So the communications issues around Facebook need to be thought about in a learning environment. Email then is one of the old school messages. This is one of the tutor's preferences. It's one of the more common ones in jobs. It can be encrypted, it can be made secure, and it's cross-platform, so it's available on a variety of devices. It's pretty basic, pretty simple, pretty compatible. It tends to be more used for longer forms than you would maybe write in a Facebook status update. This is one of the reasons actually that Sarah's not so keen on it. She doesn't really like long form writing. There's also a set of conventions about quoting other people within it in your responses and your replies. So it's quite good for having like a trail of contacts if you need to show what contacts have been made. You need a domain. Your ISP may provide you one, but increasingly universities and colleges, some of them have stopped dishing out email addresses. If you are using it for job seeking, you also need to be a bit careful that you haven't given yourself some outlandish email address that is not going to look sensible on your CV. You can add attachments, files, which is very useful, but can also lead to the risk of viruses getting into the system. So it needs a certain level of security and understanding applied. And you also need to filter through a certain amount of spam. A lot of ISPs will filter things for you, but it's still useful. Some does get through, so you still need some skills to identify the rubbish and get rid of it. Even though it's a digital literacy learning environment, we don't want to forget about face-to-face contact. This is a very good way of quickly resolving questions that learners might have quite quickly. You do need to schedule time aside from it. This might need to be calendared in as a weekly or a monthly or some other schedule, often in conjunction with a blended learning approach. So you'll have some stuff online and then you'll catch up, deal with any questions, do any group work or anything that needs to be done in person, and then move on from there. It is a skill which is needed in most jobs. You do need to have face-to-face contact. It's very rare to find the job that doesn't involve any sort of face-to-face contact, so it is a skill that can be developed and can be improved upon. You can work in large groups, smaller groups. Some learners have strong preferences about working in groups and bigger groups and would prefer to either be one-on-one, whereas others do really well in a group environment. So individuals' preferences need to be taken into account. And it's also a bit easier to pick up on the emotional cues in a face-to-face environment. If people are getting a little bit worried or they haven't understood something, you can often tell just from their face and you know when to move on. So because of this, Sarah's tutor's got a good awareness of the emotional literacy that goes alongside communication. For example, he knows that Sarah's a bit self-conscious about her writing, and this can lead to embarrassment and kind of stress, and then making more mistakes because she's stressed. So when designing the learning activities, her tutor's aware of these issues and aware of how to read her emotional state and just see how comfortable she's feeling, whether she's going to need extra help. Okay, if the warning bells start going off that she is worried about something or embarrassed, he's aware that embarrassment often can lead to people getting angry as a defensive measure. So he wants to avoid anything like that happening, just be aware of the knock-on effects of people's emotions. So one example of working around this might be for longer written work to produce that in maybe a digital format instead. If the task involves demonstrating theory knowledge and understanding, it doesn't absolutely have to be written. There's more than one way of proving you know something, so a written task could be replaced, for example, by recording. And once all this communication, all this learning has happened, hopefully the learner will be able to take those skills away and achieve her goals, whether that be going back to college, going back into a job, and also have developed her own communication skills and her own learning skills, and be able to be a more independent learner out in the real world for the rest of her career.